Hello, literature lovers. Today, as you can see, I'm discussing a very famous book that's the Odyssey. It's one of the two major ancient Greek epic poems attributed to Homer. It is in part a sequel to the famous work Illiad, the other Homeric epic. So I have to refer some of the facts related to it. But first of all, don't forget Homer, who was the creator of the work. And these two works really have such historic references, not to forget. So, some of the animation, I hope you will like them. Now, talking about the references, how it was written, some believe he did, some believe he did not. So difficult to express things since it's so back time, some 18th century BC. Who can understand better? But still, starting with the basics, the Odyssey is a fundamental work in modern Western canon, being the oldest extant piece of Western literature, second to the Iliad. Scholars believe the Odyssey was composed near the end of the 8th century BC, somewhere in Ionia, the Greek coastal region of Anatolia. The theater is so good, how creative they were. The poem mainly focuses on the Greek hero Odysseus, also known as Ulysses in the Roman myth, who is the king of Ithaca, and his journey home after the fall of the Troy. There's that famous Battle of Troy. It takes Odysseus 10 years to reach Ithaca after the 10-year Trojan War. Yes, the famous Trojan War and then horse and the disguise, all of it. In his absence, Odysseus is assumed to have died, due to which his wife Penelope and son Telemachus must deal with a group of unruly sailors, the Menatius, or you can say Precoci, who compete for Penelope's hand in marriage. She's beautiful. The work continues to be read in Homeric Greek and translated into modern languages around the world. Many scholars believe the original poem was composed in an oral tradition by some singer, Odysseus, perhaps a rapper, some professional performer, and was most likely intended to be heard than read. So, not many people were really capable enough to read it, especially at that time. The details of the ancient oral performance and the story's conversion, that's the movie part. I really like it. It's good presentation. The detail of the ancient oral performance and story's conversion to a written work inspire continual debate among scholars. Obviously, think about what to read it. The Odyssey was written in an poetic dialect of Greek, literary amalgam of Aeolic or Ionic and some other ancient Greek dialects, comprising 12 and 110 lines of decasyllabic hexameter. Among the most noteworthy elements of the text are its non-linear plot and influence on events of choices made by women slaves besides the actions of fighting men. In fact, in English language as well as many others, the word Odyssey has come to refer to an epic voyage. Obviously, the Odyssey has a lost sequel too. It is a sequel and it also has a sequel that is called Telegon, which was not attributed to Homer but rather in antique to Xenophon of Sparta. In one source, the Telegon is said to have been stolen from Muses of Athens by either Eugenon, or some other Cynic poets. I'm talking about the overall story, beginning with the end of the 10-year Trojan War, which was part of that Athena. So you can read here all the storyline are given here, how it happened, and that famous Trojan horse, which really marked the point. So on the end of it, it was talk about it, and is still not returned to the angry Poseidon, the god of the sea. And Odysseus' son Telemachus is about 20 years old now and is sharing his absent father's house on the island of Ithaca with his mother Penelope, and the suitor is a crowd of 108 virtuous young men who each aim to persuade Penelope for her hand in marriage, all while reveling in king's palace and eating up his wealth. Odysseus' protectress, the goddess Athena, asks Zeus, king of gods, to finally allow Odysseus to return home when Poseidon, who will be gone to accept a sacrifice in Ethiopia, is absent from Mount Olympus. Then disguised as an Taphian chieftain named Mentres, Athena visits Acamas to urge him to search for news of his father. He offers hospitality, and they observe the suitors dining rudely while Thamius, the bard, performs a narrative poem. There's a picture of the voyage. Penelope objects to Thamius' theme, the return from Troy, because it reminds her of her missing husband, but Telemachus rebukes her objections, asserting his role as head of the house. That night, Athena, disguised as Telemachus, finds a ship and crew for the true prince. The next morning, Telemachus calls an assembly of citizens of Ithaca to discuss what should be done with the insolent suitors, who then scoffs at Telemachus, especially their leaders Antonius, Lycurgus, and Eurymachus. Accompanied by Athena, the son of Odysseus, departs from Greek mainland to the household of Nestor, most vulnerable of Greek warriors at Troy, who resisted in Pylos after the war. From there, Telemachus rides overland to Sparta, accompanied by Nestor's son Pisistratus, and there he finds Menelaus and Helen, who are now reconciled, while Helen laments the fit of lust brought on by Aphrodite that sent her to Troy with Paris. Menelaus recounts how she betrayed the Greeks by attempting to imitate the voices of the soldiers' wives while they were inside the Trojan horse. Now the story is quite taking the turn. Telemachus also hears from Helen, who is first to recognize him, that she prides him because Odysseus was not there for him in his childhood, because he went to Troy to fight for her, and also bought his exploit of stealing the Palladium, where she was only one to recognize him. Menelaus, meanwhile, also praises Odysseus as an incomparable comrade and friend, lamenting the fact that they were not only unable to return together from Troy, but that Odysseus is yet to return. Both the themes of his Odysseus very important. Both Helen and Menelaus also say that they returned to Sparta after a long voyage by way of Egypt. There, on the island of Pharos, Menelaus encounters the old sea god Proteus, who told him that Odysseus was a captive of the nymph Calypso. Yes. Incidentally, Telemachus learns the fate of Menelaus' brother Agamemnon, who is the king of Mecania and leader of Greeks at Troy. He was murdered on his return home by his wife Satemaniastra and her lover Eurystheus. The story, these are some of the MCQs. I hope you will definitely like him. The MCQs really highlight your style of thing. The answers also given and suggest something more attractive and beautiful. That's all for today. Thanks for being part of it. Thanks for listening. Thanks.